Welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your Does Reading a Book Count as Gaming host, Madelyn.
I'm your Demos host, Emma.
And thanks for tuning in to this week's show. Can you believe it? It's time for a Save Data 6-week podcast where we talk about what we've been playing the last 3 fortnights.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Sounds fake.
It's unbelievable the number of things I have done in these past 6 weeks, but also, wow, it's been 6 weeks.
Mal's done many real-life things that aren't playing games.
I literally... listeners, I slept accidentally until 11:15 on Tuesday. I woke up, I was like, it's probably like 9:30. I've overslept a little. Oh well. Looked at the clock, 11:15.
Yeah. We had all of Jeff's Hot Gamer Summer pass us by.
God, Hot Gamer Summer's already over. I've missed out. I've missed Hot Gamer Summer. Man, I didn't even I'd forgotten that was in this past 6 weeks. Ah, should I just talk about... Just do like a big Yakuza trailer debrief?
I did feel like I played a whole Yakuza game just watching the announcement for Yakuza 8.
Like, both times.
The
Both
ride, the emotional ride. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Can't wait for the fall summit. Give me more. Give me more. Well, I think it's safe to say, Emma, that you have probably played more games and more demos and more anything than me.
Yeah. I played a perfectly reasonable number of games this 6 weeks versus I feel like the last couple of episodes where I've just been bursting with games.
Yeah.
Bursting at the seams with games. So, we'll start with our normal Cold Steel 4 wrap-up.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Got through another chapter, like I said I would last time. Through a whole nother chapter.
Proud of you.
I had pretty similar problems with this chapter. It's interesting because I had similar problems with this chapter as last chapter, and in some ways they make each other worse by the different ways that the execution was bad, if that makes sense. So in this one, we're rescuing Tio, who's like our genius hacker, and Reen's sister, Elise, from our old school ground, right? Where Cold Steel 3 took place, which the main campus students, because we were the branch campus of Thor's, the main campus students have taken over this campus because they like it. They like it better. Or Cedric is just particularly petty. So, I don't know.
I am following the story here. Excellent.
So, our friends are being held there, so Reen and the kids go to infiltrate the city. It's fun. It's nice to be like, yeah, the kids... Like, I was really hyped at the beginning of this because I was like, yes, the kids making their triumphant return to the branch campus. And unfortunately, again, it is like, oh, these people know that they're just, like, on the wrong side, but they can't, like, just stop.
Yeah.
The issue for me with these plots is, like, it's not like some ideological dispute. It's like, you are for ending the world or not for ending like, you're working for ending the world, and I feel like they all know this. Or not. And
sorry, is this US politics, or...
You're right. Maybe it's deeper than I'm giving it credit for. You're right. Maybe.
Yeah.
So the way this one is set up is like, this one's a little bit more compelling than just like the military men, because it's a bunch of kids, right? And they're like all of Cedric's like little flunkies, and they're like, we think that probably this is bad, and Cedric has been a real little meanie guy lately, but we like want you to come here and fight us to test our resolve or whatever. Which like, sure. Fine. But like, they also like are like, here's like a whole bunch of archaisms, like really dangerous machines that we've left all over campus for you, and we've stuck our teachers in these really dangerous, like curse-infested machines to fight you for a little bit. And it's just like, why? why are you in the curse-infested machines if you want us to beat you? And they don't even stay in. Like, it's not even, like, a matter of, like, they're, like, really dedicated to it, and, like, they stay in until they die, and it's, like, tragic. It's, like, as soon as they get, like, a little tired, they're like, okay, you win. Here's the key card you wanted. It's like...
I feel that.
I feel like if we could just train someone... I guess we just got our genius hacker back, so maybe it's time. But I feel like Muse could break, like, a keypad lock, and then we wouldn't have to deal with the nonsense of this chapter, but whatever. So anyway, it just felt like another waste of time. I felt like it would have been more interesting, like, Kurt, which is one of the kids, was, like, Cedric, supposed to be like Cedric, who's the prince's right-hand man upon them coming of age, because, like, he's part of the family that creates, like, the right-hand man for royalty. And, like, he turned against him because Cedric's doing bad things. And so it would have been interesting if they'd framed it as, like, what's loyalty? You know, like, do you stay with someone no matter what they're doing, or is loyalty showing them that they're on the wrong path? But they didn't even, like, go into any of that, which felt just, like, obvious ground for interesting stuff for me. But at least the main campus students do join our cause at the end, which at least is better than the military men who are like, I guess we have to keep pretending to be evil and doing evil things.
I guess so.
Shrug.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Anyway, and I continue to studiously avoid making any special memories with Reen and the girls, which is what they call, like, the special bonding events you can do, where you, like, build romance points with them. But I think that calling those special memories is really funny, because I go on, like, you can hang out with the guys, too, right? But they aren't special memories.
It's not special memories when you're hanging out with your bros.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, when I'm playing, I feel like I just have to constantly remind, like, Machias, I know that we're having, like, a really serious, like, story moment for your arc here, but I just want you to know this memory's not special to me.
It's normal. Normal memory.
It is perfectly normal memory in my mind. Anyway, that's the Cold Steel 4 report. We're at Act 4. Next is Act 4. We've gotten out of Act 3.
Are there 5 acts? Is this
there's Act 4.
Play?
There's a couple of Act 4 chapters, and then there's a finale.
Wow.
That is just one section.
So you really will be finished by the end of 2023.
That is my goal. I have to finish this by the end of the year, even if I bring in the new year with it. It will be done by the end of this year. I cannot extend it into 2024. It cannot happen.
Anyway, I'm glad you're going to be finished by the end of 2023. Tell me that there won't be a Trails of Cold Steel 5 after that. I don't know if I can take any more of this.
Trails into Reverie is coming out next month, which is, like, the coda to the Cold Steel series. But it is about half the length, I believe, as a Cold Steel game. I will probably still take a break in between finishing 4, but I will probably play that eventually.
Alright, do we want the throwback to the early days of this 6 weeks? Do we want the normal game, or do we want Katamari?
I want what you want, Madelyn.
Alright, let me talk about Tunic first, because I'm afraid that if I don't talk about it, I'll lose my memories of it.
Okay.
I had to go back. This was, like, in the first 2 weeks of the 6 weeks. I had to go back and listen to our last 6-week podcast to determine, like, where I was when we did our last save data. Because, of course, I talked about this some in our game languages podcast. So forgive me for some repeat. But this was a 6 weeks, although I did not play too many games. It was a 6 weeks marked by games that we got very into.
Good.
And Tunic, yeah, as I talked about a little bit on that languages podcast, we got very into Tunic. It was interesting to me to listen to the 6-week recap from 6 weeks ago, because I was like, oh, like, I'm doing pretty good. This game isn't that hard. Ha ha ha, how am I going to keep the spoilers secret from Clickbait Boyfriend? Did not know what I was talking about. Did not know even a little. And I was like, oh, I beat another boss. I'm so good at this. Ha ha ha. Yeah, we stayed up until, like, 2 a.m, scrawling little decoder rings in my notebook for, like, 3 days in a row.
Good.
Semi-intentionally, semi-unintentionally. Tunic, we really, really, really enjoyed Tunic here. And I need to go back and look at all those games that we researched for the 6-week podcast to see if I can find anything else similar. I feel like my boyfriend and I are gonna need like a game club. He keeps trying to tell me, he's like, you have to stream on Twitch so I can like watch you play. I don't know about that for me.
I think Discord maybe has some more like you can stream on Discord if you want to look into that. In terms of like having more like a personal only.
I think the issue is that he wants to be able to watch it later.
Ah, I see.
As opposed to him being up in the middle of the night watching me play, games. But yeah, we got really, really into the metagame side of Tunic. To the point where I think we thought it was even more complicated than it was. We were finding all of this, like finding all of the fairies, which are this like very post-game content, unlocks like the super secret. But I thought I had to do that to just do the golden path, which is the like mid-tier secret. And you don't.
Nope.
I still think the music language part of it is silly.
It was fun. It was fun for the guy who made it, and that's all you really need. I completely
understand that. I'm still over here being like, think of what you could have done with that time, son.
Made more music?
Yeah. Or like, gone for a walk. Yeah, I really liked Tunic. Definitely kind of an early contender. I know it was a 2022 game, but an early contender for Talk This NYC HQ Game of the Year. Lot of year left to come, but a front runner here as we head into the second half. As you said, sort of a surprise front runner, but a game definitely a game that I recommend for stealth local co-op. I think that I likely would have given up. Well, I don't know about that, but I would have had a little bit less fun if it had been just me trying to figure out all these wild puzzles at the end. Than if I had someone to kind of talk it through with, which tracks with how people like talked about, the reviewer community around it as well. I would also recommend having studied some Japanese, which made it, I really felt like made some of the decoding a little easier for me. Not that it has anything to do with Japanese.
Just like a pictograph language?
No. Okay.
Like, is this a syllable-based language? I don't know.
I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
But something about the some of the like thinking about how Japanese works helped me to figure out some of the ways that Tunic's language works.
I see.
That being said, I did find out after playing the game that there was a way to change your fox's color and costume somewhere that we never found. So, I don't know that I would. I thought my fox looked cute. Cute little guy.
Little Zelda.
One critique of the game is I just wanted more. I think that the ending feels a little slight. I'll say. The ending you get, light spoilers, when you complete the golden path and you get the kind of quote unquote true ending of the game. At that point, I was so far removed from having done the fake ending or the bad ending of the game, and also, I don't know. I just would have appreciated a few more like gestures toward that maybe being dropped throughout. I know it's like sort of like a big secret game. The whole game is about secrets, but like all the stuff at the end where like you have. Spoilers, right? Spoilers. Not real spoilers for the things that people care about spoilers about. I wouldn't say the story of Tunic is like the thing people are worried about being spoiled on, right? But like some Tunic spoilers here. I like all the little like, oh, it's like your hero in the air, like doing fun things together in the credits. Like they're making snow angels. They're looking at the stars. That was nice. I wanted more of that. I wanted it to feel like a little more. That's all. That's my only thing. Not enough of a boss rush. No, just kidding. That's not what I wanted. But there basically was a boss rush, honestly. Actually, that's a hot take. Tunic does like more or less take like everything you've learned and say, okay, you gotta put all this together at the end. So best unconventional boss rush of the year. So far, for sure.
Very cool. Alright, so last week was Steam Next Fest, which for once I actually downloaded some demos.
Woohoo! What's next?
And tried them out. Yeah, if you don't know Steam Next Fest, I think it's like a 3 times a year thing now, where just like a bunch of unreleased games can release demos. I mean, you can release demos on Steam whenever, but like they're featured.
It's a fun and spicy time to do it.
Yes. A lot of these may still have their demo up because I saw a lot of discourse around like, why is it timed? It's like, so you play them, so you actually play them. But so I played a bunch, so I'm just gonna list some of my highlights, I would say. I tried Little Guardsman, which is essentially like a fantasy chiller version of Papers, Please.
Okay.
Where you let in like fantasy creatures into your fantasy kingdom. Rather than being timed for each person, there's like a certain number of actions you can take before you have to make a decision, which is why it's more like thinking about what you're doing as opposed to like Papers, Please, where you're like, I have to do all of the things really fast so I can make the money to feed my children.
I understand what you mean by chiller now. I thought you meant like, oh, like it's immigration, but like chiller. But it sounds like it's just chiller for you, the player.
Yes, it's chiller for you, the player. It's more lighthearted in tone, but it does seem to have like it might have some like black humor stuff going on.
Man,
underneath.
Who would have thought a Papers, Please like Papers, Please Vania coming through?
It's a good idea. It's a good gamification there, you know. I also played Ghost BS Season 1, which is a visual novel, but it's more structured like a short like anime series. Like it has a little OP and ED, and there's different episodes that you play. So I played episode 1 of that, and it's like all stylized like you're watching it on like a VHS tape too. So it has like glitch effects and like skipping back and forth. So I really like the premise of that. It's like apparently you live in like this town of ghosts essentially, so you've all like lived there forever without dying, but seems like something happened between your character and your friends a while ago, and now there's a new person in town, which is apparently something that doesn't happen really. So there's some intrigue going on there of what's going on with both the past that you've sort of blocked out and this new person in town. So I really liked the setup and the presentation of that one. I played Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, which is a game where you are a banished witch, and after being banished for a couple hundred years without your magic, you get kind of sick of it, and so you summon like this great demon to essentially help you get your powers back and get back at the people who banished you. So I played through like making your contract with the demon, where it like tutorializes what's going on, and essentially it's like you make your own tarot deck and then tell fortunes using your own tarot deck, which is a cool concept. I thought. Anyway, I'm sure everything, your Fortuna, everything's gonna go well for Fortuna. I'm sure was the vibe I got. That everything's gonna be fine, and this was a really good idea.
As long as you build a good tarot deck for yourself, right?
Yeah. I'm sure the contract with the Great Demon will cause no problems. Yeah. It'll be fine.
So a Persona Vania. It's got tarot. Right?
Exactly, yeah. It's just like Persona 5, which invented tarot. I played Phoenix Springs, which was like a pretty classic point-and-click adventure game. It had a really, really cool-looking animation style, and a setup that reminded me a lot. I played Norco, I think, last year.
Yeah.
Which it was set up similarly in premise and sort of vibe to that, I think, but with the more classic like point-and-click style. Which they moved you from area to area pretty fast in the demo, so I was never like in any place long enough to feel like I got stuck, which I also felt like was a good, like it would just automatically move you to the next location when you'd finished up in a location.
Oh, nice.
Essentially. So that was nice. I played Hazuki Dies, She Has No Name, which is like a little like comedy game.
Sure.
You're a Hazuki and you really want to be a doctor, but you're trying to like build up the money to pay for your college by working in the taco business. And the taco business, real cutthroat business.
Obviously.
One day you're running from your very angry boss and a competitor comes in and like takes you out, takes out the customers, hurts your boss. And then you fall into the sewers where apparently there was some sort of strange experimentation going on and you have to work your way out by fighting monsters. But unfortunately you die in one hit. So you have to be careful about like positioning. It's like grid-based, turn-based.
This is a wild ride.
It is. It's like, it's one of those games that's like, it'll either work for you or not, you know, like how willing you are to keep rolling with it. But it's just so like, it just keeps going, right? It's just like, how much can we continue to escalate whatever is happening? You save at ice cream shops who only let criminals save. The doctor, John Doe, is a very normal doctor who has to treat your boss. You have to go learn magic so that you can heal your boss so that she will pay for your college education.
Okay.
It was very fun. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
So a chess-vania.
Yeah, it's just like chess.
You said it was grid-based, one-hit kill.
Yeah, you're right. It is just like chess.
The rest of it also just like chess.
Two more, my two big highlights of the demos that I played. That wasn't
your big highlight?
That was almost my big highlight, you know? Like, it's like a step below these next two. So I played Urbano Legends Debut, which is a rhythm game inspired by the likes of The World Ends With You, for instance. So in that, you're essentially this guy who is like researching and finding urban legends, which are essentially like actual people in this, so you're fighting them. And this is through rhythm combat, so you have to like jump and duck and hit the attack button at the proper time to fight them. It's also mini games, like your job is, there's a little witch girl at the club who will pay you to dance with her, and I would do anything for her, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's the best part of the game. So it's like you go and there's also like a mini game for hanging out with people. So you build your friendships by picking the correct topic and hitting at the correct time, essentially.
Oh, nice.
So that is also rhythm based. It's all these different things. They're all rhythm based. They're all quite fun. I was able to play it on my computer, so there you go. That's a plus in itself. And really cool art style, really good character designs. I liked it quite a bit. I also played In Stars in Time, which is like a time loop game. You are part of like this party that's trying to save the world from a guy who has frozen parts of the world in time. Essentially stop time for parts of the world, and you find out that, whoops, you're in a time loop when you accidentally die to a trap.
Whoops.
Whoops. It has really good writing. I really like all the characters. You have 4 people in your party, and then also like a preteen that like is hanging along, and they will occasionally attack things randomly as well.
Good. No party without a preteen.
Which is good. The menu is like, it lists like the 4, and then Bonnie is over in the side, like, and Bonnie! They are also here. So it's like rock, paper, scissors combat. It seems like it's going to have a little bit more to it. I just played up to like when the time loop gets introduced in the demo, basically. So there are definitely like like if you do a bunch of like rocks in a row, they will do like a big rock attack. Like the whole party will do a big rock attack, for instance, is something I discovered over the course of playing it that would probably get actually introduced later in the game, for instance. But really cool art. You can pick up like little souvenir items that don't do anything but cause the characters delight. So
love that.
Just like nice little story-based little mechanics, I guess. That's quite charming. And that's my Next Fest demo roundup.
You really made the most of it.
I did. Those are just the ones I liked. I played some I didn't like, but I don't feel like I need to talk about them.
Yeah, no need to roast them here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do my quick games roundup too before I talk about the next one. For the podcast, right? I played Sam & Max, and I played some of Scribblenauts. Neither of which really grabbed me. Sam & Max actively did not enjoy.
Got it.
And will not be continuing there. That was a demo. Scribblenauts, I could see myself potentially playing more of. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I have made sort of the conscious choice to read more. Like, I was taking the subway a lot more this past month than I have in a very long time. And I mostly read, which I hadn't really read a book in a very long time. So to have read a few books in the past 6 weeks, I think I was proud of myself.
This is your call, gamers. Read a book.
Yeah, consider
for
reading
God's
a book.
sake.
But I haven't been playing, like, Scribblenauts and Triangle Strategy are two games where it's like they're on my Switch. I would probably play them on the Switch in transit kind of things. And instead I opted for paper. So
good.
I could see myself playing more Scribblenauts. We'll see. I think it is very possible that I played like another level of Triangle Strategy since our last podcast, but it was near the very beginning and I don't remember, and I'm not confident enough, and I don't have any real thoughts on it. It continues to be Triangle Strategy. It's fun. I'm playing it at a snail's pace, which is probably not serving the game. But that's
they apparently
okay.
just added like an extra thing to it in a free update, so
Neat. Good for me.
good for you.
But I did play a significant amount more of Chia. I think last time we were talking about the baby eting. I think that's where we got to last time. I remember that. So I've advanced the story a bit since then. I've finally... with these games that have all the markers on the map, like, everybody hates the Ubisoft style of open world because they're like, oh, I want to discover things for myself. I hate it because I have to get everything on the map. I can't leave them. So, it's been slow going, advancing what's actually happening, because I'm just like, I have to get this stamina fruit. I have to get this trinket. I have to balance these rocks. But I did finally move things forward a bit. I met my new photographer buddy, who's been having me go to the fabric factories.
Right, yeah.
I sort of expected those to be, the mechanics of those to be deeper. Do you know what I mean?
You're just at your, like, first visit to them?
Oh, there's more visits? Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because you just take the photos first. You scope them out, right?
No. We've destroyed the chimneys.
Oh,
too.
okay.
I just mean that my only strategy is pick up as many explosive things as I can. Blow things up. Pick up more explosive things. Blow things up.
My strategy was to go in with food and transform. I got where you transform into the little guy from the rock stacking thing. So I would just run around I would find a bunch of them, transform into that, and then it's like a third-person shooter.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of that too, but it's just like, it's either that or it's I have 6 gas cans and I'm jumping into those. Or I'm like standing by one of the explosive rock piles and I'm just grabbing one every time I miss. So the combat of it and like the infiltration of it, I have found not that interesting.
Yeah. That was the time I think I said that I was surprised by how combat focused it got for a little bit.
Yeah. It did, for something that has become, like, whatever, like, I don't mind it for the little camps, and I don't mind this a little bit. It's just been funny to do sort of the exact same thing 3 times that also doesn't feel like, what would be my alternative strategy here? I don't even know. Like, can I headbutt them as a deer? Like, yeah. If I poop on them as a bird, do they die? It just seems like, for this game that is all about, turning into different things and being funny and fun in that way, it funnels on down a little bit.
I did enjoy trying to stealth them, to be fair. I feel like that is something you could viably do.
Like, on one hand, yes, and I've done a little bit of that. On the other hand, I have so much stamina that it doesn't make that much of a difference when I get shot. Or, like, I will just walk in, like, when I burn the fabric pile and the treasure chest is there for me to get, I'll just walk into the fire and watch my stamina go down as I open the chest. Because like, I
see the difference of I must get everything on the map approach there.
Yeah. Gotta get it all.
Right.
You know, story took a turn that I didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Really thought my dad was the masked warrior all along. And, spoilers. Now he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was shocking.
Yeah.
Like, pretty little fanfare about it, too. Like, he just died. So, yeah. Anyway, still really enjoy, like, Chia is, like, soothing, and I'm enjoying it, and I hope to finish it this month, because I think if I take a big break for it while I'm on vacation, that won't serve it. I'm hoping to finish it.
I think you're pretty close, if you don't have to pick everything up.
Although there's a lot of things on the map still, so. I did just buy myself, did I buy the cow costume? I think I bought myself the cow costume.
Good.
Which I haven't put on yet. I always make like a boyfriend dress Chia when I go to campfires. Which often, that's another thing. Like sometimes she's like, and you've talked about this in your games, but this doesn't happen to me as often. Sometimes she's dressed with such stupid face paint in the cutscenes that it kind of ruins it a little bit.
What do you mean enhances it?
Like, you're right. Enhances it, but also ruins it. Anyway, looking forward to hopefully wrapping that one up next time. But it's good. It's like a good check things off the list kind of game.
Oh man, that did remind me, in Cold Steel 4, I actually they have like special S-crafts you can use. I don't use them very often because I don't need to. But it like flashes like their 2D artwork across the screen when they do it, and it was like jump scared a couple times. I was like, who's that? That's not their hair color. Oh, right. That's not what they're wearing. Oh, that's right.
Don't even recognize that.
I don't even recognize. Reen, white hair, lies.
That ain't Reen.
Alright, my non-Final Fantasy game wrap-up. I finished Fuga Melodies of Steel 2. It was good. I quite liked it. I liked the ending that it came to. Didn't lose any of my kids. I think I got in like over the course of the game, I got 2 situations where the Soul Cannon sequence started triggering, which I think I mentioned would happen before, but actually did happen after the 6 weeks. So essentially it just chooses a kid at random, and then you have 20 turns to finish the battle, total. 20 of your own turns. It doesn't count the enemy's turns, thankfully. So it doesn't matter if you like heal up or anything. Like you have to finish it in 20 turns or the tank will turn the child into energy. Nice. So one time, the first time it happened, it was genuinely scary because it was very unexpected and we still had a chunk to go. So I managed that, not by the skin of my teeth, but it was a little scary. The second time it happened, I was pretty much done and I just got a little bit overconfident on how much health was left. But it wasn't too scary. It just was like a couple of turns away from finishing the boss battle. Nice. So all the kids lived at the end. Happily ever after. Except that it's a trilogy, baby. I didn't unlock this. I just went and looked up afterward, like a Kingdom Hearts secret movie, but you can unlock things on the title screen that will like show you a little preview for the next title. It was like this in the first game too. And so the preview for the first game was pretty like, it was, it starts off with the kids getting taken over and like the the tank moving on its own, right? That's the start of the game. And that was sort of what was teased in Fuga 1. And Fuga 2 has some... I don't know what's happening in Fuga... What's going to happen in Fuga 3. There was some, like... The secret movie in Fuga 1 was like, whoa, what's happening? You know, like, oh no, the kids are in trouble again. And this one was like, whoa, what's happening? Are the kids in trouble? What's going on? So I'm quite excited for that. I'm really down to see Fuga go full. Like, there's one where, like, one of the chick is, like, there's, like, 1 million of her, like, floating in space. That's the sort of stuff I like. So, I'm down for it. I'll be really curious to see. So I like the basic tank gameplay, and I think that the quality of life features introduced make it a lot nicer than the first game, although they did update the first game to bring those quality of life features in. And there are some interesting, like the soul cannon being forced, and there's some different enemy types that do some interesting things that require you to react to them in different ways. So there is some iteration on the basic gameplay, but I'm really curious to see if Fuga 3 will have the same sort of base again, or if they're going to change it up in some way. I would like to see them have a little bit more variation, I think. I think if you went directly from Fuga 1 to Fuga 2, you would get very fatigued, basically, of the gameplay.
Yeah.
So if you're starting the series, I recommend taking a break in between 1 and 2, for instance.
Or you could just play them one after the other.
Or you can play them one after the other and completely burn yourself out as well.
Or you could play Trine 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the span of 6 weeks.
Anyway, I love when the choir goes ho ho, you know things are popping off in Fuga. So
in any game. In life.
So the other game I played Neocab, which I've had on my backlog for a little bit. You play as like a cab driver in a futuristic city, like an Uber driver essentially in a futuristic city. So you're like the human Uber driver, and then there's a competing service that's like auto cars that don't have drivers behind them. So you're in this new city. The first night, you're here to see your friend, and the first night your friend disappears, right? So you're sort of stuck in the city without a place to stay, trying to figure out like what's going on with your friend. And in the meantime, you pick up a lot of different passengers from around the city who all have their own little arc going on. So you use a bunch of short stories, and then one overarching long story takes up a place of like 6 nights with like 3 to 4 passengers per night. It's good. I think it's uneven. The main story didn't really coalesce fully to me. I think just because of the shorter stories I chose in between, sort of. By giving that much freedom of like who you can pick on each night, I think that it risks making that overarching story either hit more or less depending on the route that you take, I guess. Because I kept picking up ones that didn't have to do with the main story, basically, which I think, yeah, you know. But also there was Algernon. It's not Algernon as in the mouse. It's like Agernon or something. Who's a member of the cult of the pain worm, where, you know, you feel bad in order to feed the pain worm, so that they may one day erupt from the ground and end the suffering of humanity. And I really liked his plotline. It was very interesting, and talking about, because part of it is like he starts doing well at his job, like as part of the pain worm cult, and he's like, so I've been feeling good lately. How does this square with like my religious practice of feeling bad in order to feed the pain worm? I felt like it was some good conversations, some well-written conversations that I enjoyed a lot. Yeah. So if you like sort of narrative games, it's just like having conversations. There's a little system of like you have a feeling, like how you're feeling at the time can impact the things you can or can't say. You know, like it'll show you all your options, but if you're too angry, sometimes you can't humor the person that's in your car, right? Because you can't bring yourself to do it. You're too angry. I felt that way before. If you're angry, and if you say something nice, it'll just like it'll come out insincere and sarcastic. Right. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting way to control different conversations and force you into things as well. And overall, I enjoyed it. It was a good little diversion.
Well, let's get rolling, folks.
Literally, let's do it.
Thanks to the birthday generosity of Emma, I played an unbelievable amount of We Love Katamari, Royal Reverie. Yeah. Is that right? Is that the full title?
Maybe?
Reroll. We Love Katamari, Reroll, and Royal Reverie, I think.
Royal Reverie is like a little extra bonus thing that's tagged onto it, I think. Right?
Yeah. Well, then there's the DLC, too, which I do not have. Which, by the way, how dare they lock Lonely Rolling Star behind the DLC? Give me my Sayonara Rolling Star, you cowards. Like, you're making me think about it. Speaking of, this stuff is not on Spotify, and to which I say, why?
True.
I would listen to this all the time.
Gotta get it on Spotify.
Please. Katamari on Spotify. Anyway, We Love Katamari is a remake of the mid-2000s second game in the Katamari series entitled We Love Katamari, where basically everybody loves Katamari and they're asking the king to do them favors because they loved playing Katamari.
Right.
And the king's like, I don't want to do that. And then they say, you're cool. And he's like, I want to do that. And this one does come with, it has, as some reviews said, the first new Katamari levels in like over a decade. Now, to call them new levels, generous. But let's start with the positive. Katamari, really probably the greatest game of all time.
True.
Just gonna say it. I just think everyone should play a Katamari game.
I'll agree with that part, yeah.
I'm so glad that both Katamari Damacy and We Love Katamari are now accessible on modern systems, because I feel like everyone should play them. They're just really, really good. And I think I said this to Emma at some point in these past 6 weeks. It's really a crime that the Katamari series didn't become Call of Duty, by which I mean that it's not on like an annual, or like didn't become FIFA, where it's on an annual release schedule. You just wouldn't even have to give me that much. You wouldn't have to change very much. They could just be new levels in the create one new area every year. Or do it like Hitman, right?
Yeah. I don't remember why I was looking at it was in college at some point, but Keita Takahashi just seems like someone who can't stay still on projects too long.
Well, seriously. I mean, I'm really upset that To a T seems to be an Xbox exclusive.
Maybe it'll come to other consoles later.
We're gonna keep our fingers crossed, because that song was so silly.
Or it's time to invest in Xbox Series S.
I guess.
The Game Pass box, Fallon. The Game Pass box.
But, here's the thing. I don't even think... sorry, I know this is not going to sound great. I don't think he needs to be involved anymore. I don't care. I wouldn't even care if the new levels were subpar.
Wow, you want a soulless corporate Katamari?
Absolutely.
Oh my god.
That's better than nothing.
I don't know about that.
Well, okay, I don't know. I'm just... Give me Katamari 3. That's all. Or, remaster the Xbox. So, We Love Katamari didn't hit quite as hard for me. We own the original Katamari Damacy. I don't own Reroll for that one on the PS3. We also own Katamari Forever, which is a big compilation of Katamari levels that's also on the PlayStation 3. Now, that does not include all of the levels in We Love Katamari, but it includes several of the very classic ones, like Rolling the Sumo Wrestler, the underwater level, Cow Bear, lots of that good stuff.
The good stuff, the Cow Bear level.
Cow Bear is not good stuff. Click Boyfriend tries so hard at Click Boyfriend has the Cow Bear level freaking memorized at this point, and he still can't get the giant cow bear. But I did get the freaky cow cousin, who, when you're not moving, gets down on all fours and shakes its butt.
Good.
And does count as a cow when you roll it up, which is kind of lame. So We Love Katamari didn't hit quite as hard for us because it wasn't like for many people playing this will be like, oh wow, genuinely this is like a ton of new Katamari levels. And for us it was like, well, we've played a lot of these, even though they look better now. And obviously we did have We Love Katamari back in its original iteration, yes. So there's that too. But it's become a real tradition for us here to play a lot of Katamari, like in the lead up to stressful life events. So it's been a real blessing to have during this time. So thank you, Emma.
You're welcome.
For purchasing it.
You're welcome.
But we've just now successfully collected all of the cousins, which I don't think that we ever did on the PS2. I can't imagine us being like that on the PS2 as children. But there's like a bonus level to do now that we've collected all the cousins, which I'm looking forward to. And then after that, I know this because I looked it up. So I was like, what are these other levels? There's 2 other levels. What is this other one? There's also apparently a level, the infamous Rose level, where you have to roll for like hours straight. Like the traditional way of doing that is to like put rubber bands on your PlayStation and just like your controller and just let it run. So
excited.
Might not do that one. But yeah, I'm over here. I'm gonna keep beating the drum. There should be more Katamari. Please, 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 please. Even though the new levels that they created in this one, they created all these kind of like, they're not even really new levels. They're just like reskins of levels that are already there, basically. Like you play as the king, like you're on the car racing level, and instead of it being normal, it's a collect as many tires as you can. That one was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good. But then there's one that's like, it's like the Firefly level, but instead you're collecting like fighting spirit. Like that one was stupid. That was the same level as it already was. So, well, it was like, oh, it's, and the worst thing, and I saw this in a review and I felt really seen, is that you don't really get like commentary on it. The king is just like, oh, I remember that. And that's it. If he would tell me how good or bad I did, I would feel better about them just being reskins. But I do hope in my heart of hearts that the fact that they're making these like little soulless levels will lead to more soulless content in the future.
Can't wait. I love soulless content.
I just need more Katamari. I'll do anything. I'll buy if you want to release it on Xbox, I'll buy an Xbox. I'll do it. So yeah, I think that is coming to a close. Katamari. It's gonna have to be coming to a close. But that, I feel like we're hitting the peak of the Katamari obsession this time around.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, I lied. I played one more demo. Not part of Steam Neck Fest. But I played the Final Fantasy 16 demo.
Woo!
Mostly to just confirm what I thought about Final Fantasy 16, which is that it is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the demo did a very good job confirming that it's not for me. There wasn't really anything wrong with it. If I may put on my like little objective editor hat, I think that the opening is not great. Like the very beginning.
Okay.
I think once it gets in it starts with a flash middle where you're like in an on rails big kaiju fight that ends pretty abruptly, moves to a flash forward where you just sort of walk for a little bit. Okay. And then there's a scene that doesn't involve Clive, who is your main character.
Right.
Where they're like, in this Final Fantasy, we smoke and drink and they want to have a sex. Which seems to be what all that scene is there for.
Uh-huh.
And then we go back to Clive. One of his team members is crushed by a rock. And then we go to a flashback, and then we spend the rest of the demo in the flashback. If I was to just edit it, I would cut the flash middle and the scene that's not about Clive in the flash forward. And I think that would be cleaner. That's it's like one little critique that I think is not for me, but could have used some editing work.
Yeah.
That's my one thing. Yeah, it's fine. It was fine. I didn't really click with the action, but I don't play character action games very much at all. I didn't really click with the story, but I don't like big nation politicking stories.
What is Trails of Cold Steel? But okay. I guess you don't really like that.
I don't really like that. No. That's not about, like, kings and queens,
I know.
though.
That was just a joke. Don't.
The kings and queens are, like, side characters in Cold Steel. This is, like nobilities and stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
I gotcha.
The big guys. I don't know.
Big guys.
But I don't... Maybe if they didn't have, maybe I'm just against European accents. You never know.
There you have it.
As soon as I hear a European accent, Emma checks out.
She's done. She's out.
No, I don't think that's it. The voice acting was very good. It was quite good. Yeah, so it's just like that. Like, it just sort of confirmed that I didn't like it. It is really interesting. I read a really interesting thread. There's so many different conversations going on about 16. But I read a really interesting thread that's like, it's sort of sad that by moving Final Fantasy into M-rated territory, like, I cannot use 16 to introduce my kids to Final Fantasy. And I've been thinking about this, actually, because I feel like a lot of Final Fantasies, the ones that I have played, and I'm not a big Final Fantasy head, I've played mostly modern ones now, they're, like, really good, like, YA novels. They, like, live in that space,
Yeah.
where they feel, like, kind of adult, for kids, where, like, you're watching it, like, oh, there's, like, themes going on, but they're not, like, great works of literature.
Yeah.
And that's not, they don't have to be,
Right.
As long as, YA, having YA in your media diet is fine. Probably shouldn't be the only thing you consume as an adult, but, you can appreciate it and it can be good.
Hot take.
It can be a fun time.
Yeah.
All that to say is that I finished Final Fantasy 13 too, and I really loved it.
Woo!
I liked it a whole lot. So I liked 13. I felt like 13, I liked a lot of its pieces, but it never, like, fully coalesced into a full thing that I liked. I liked a lot of the character relationships, but I found myself pretty disconnected from its plot, which had a lot of words being thrown around, a lot of proper nouns being thrown around. But I liked the character dynamics.
This was the one that was, like, the sister and the sister's boyfriend, right?
Yes.
Walking around a lot. That's funny. That continues to be funny to me.
Yeah, something I really like about this series is it does not have very much emphasis on romance, which is interesting. So this one, you stars Sarah, who is the sister, who's the boyfriend and sister, Sarah. You rescue her at the end of 13, and so this one is her game. And Noel, who is a boy who comes from the future.
Sure.
And they are time traveling through time because something happened between 13 and 13.2, and lightning, like, disappeared, and nobody remembers her being there at the end of 13 except for Sarah. And so something has gone funky with the timeline, essentially. And so Noel has been sent back by Lightning, who is her sister, right, to help Sarah figure out what's going on in this time thing and to find Lightning. And Noel has his own agenda, too, he has this history with Yule, who is a fortune teller who was born into every time, like, reincarnated over and over again to see the future and tell the future for people, and Caius, who is, like, her guardian, who was training Noel to, like, replace him as Yule's guardian. So first off, they abandon a lot of the terminology. There's some mention of falsies in the sea and stuff, but that was, like, a big thing in 13, but that's mostly been resolved by the events of 13, so those are mostly, like, oh yeah, like, they're used enough that I understand what their function is, but they aren't, like, a pivotal part of the plot. And it's, in fact, like, it feels like it should be complicated because they're traveling through time and all this stuff, but it is more for vibes. It's not...
Okay.
The explanation for the time travel that they introduced near the end is literally like the goddess. And you know what? That works.
Sure.
That'll explain... Using the goddess to explain everything is perfectly fine for me. Makes sense. Yeah. Sure, the goddess can do, whatever the goddess wants.
Yeah.
Why not? And as far as the rules of time travel, the main one that they bring up is if you change the future, you change the past. So the way time works is like, if you change something in the future, past events will also adjust. It's not like Sarah and Noel went there and did it, and that's like the logic of it. It's like the past will change to sort of fit that narrative. And that is like the one rule that they have for the time travel. It's not terribly concerned. It's like the effects that you have are not very specific. It's not terribly concerned with going like the butterfly effect. You did this specifically and that led to this, led to this, led to this. It's just like if you did something different and that had a big impact on the timeline, essentially. Mm-hmm. Which also works fine for me, right? Yeah. That's fine. I think if you're someone who gets very hung up on, like, wants those sort of plot specifics, I can see how 13.2 would be frustrating. But the game doesn't pretend to be interested in it, and so it doesn't give, like, a bad explanation. It just gives sort of general ones. And I think that's good. And also, 13 had you jumping around between different groups of characters a lot, and this is all, you're jumping between time periods, and so you meet new characters in those places. But you always have Sarah, Noel, and Mog, your Moogle companion, who is also a reason why this game's good.
Excellent.
Sarah's weapon is a Moogle.
Good. About time.
The Moogle turns into a weapon that she uses.
As it should.
If your Final Fantasy does not have a Moogle that turns into a weapon, then it's not a real Final Fantasy.
More Moogle weapons. That's the actual test.
And I just really liked Sarah and Noel a lot. I think the characters were the strongest part of 13, but I think Sarah and Noel are just so strong. It got me thinking a little bit about, like, how storytelling works in games, too, though, because I feel like if you watched a cutscene compilation, you would not feel as attached to them. But because you're just, like, hopping all over the place with them and fighting lots of battles, and you're always on the same team, that, like, builds connection to them just through the act of playing, right? So a lot of those gaps get filled in just through, like, you're spending time with them, right?
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So anyway, 13.2 ends on a brutal cliffhanger. A literal to be continued screen. Oops. Because you did a little oopsie whoopsie in the final battle. You didn't think some things through. To be fair, it wasn't on purpose anyway.
Sure, that makes it better.
Noel was sort of forced to do the thing that sort of messes everything up. And yeah, it's a little oops. It really put me in mind of I was thinking about this because we were talking about, like, are there any other games where you accidentally kill God?
I couldn't think of any.
And I was thinking about Evangelion because they play a track. The theme song is very, like, musically similar to Comme Sucer Todd from Ava, which is, like, a song, like, a really upbeat song about how it's time to die now. New World is, like, sort of the opposite of, like, hey, I'm gonna live even though someone's dead, like, in the opposite way. But yeah, really devastating, sudden cliffhanger ending. That real gut punch there. Dying Moogle in your arms because of the things you've done. No. I won't give you any further context. Also, so yeah, I really enjoyed it. Although I was really curious because I was like, how are they ending on a to be continued? Like, they were so confident after 13, they were like, hell yeah, we're making a trilogy. And, like, I'm looking at that with hindsight, So I did a little bit of research. So some fun facts about Final Fantasy 13. So it was initially announced 2006 E3 at the same time as they announced Versus 13, also at E3 2006, because they were making like a whole like sub like the Fabula Nova Crystallis universe, right? So they had Final Fantasy 13, they had Versus 13, and they had another one that became Final Fantasy Type 0, which was originally like Final Fantasy 13 Agito or something as well. So it was like they had all of these concepts that were all like Final Fantasy 13. They shared the same mythos, but we're going to tell different stories with different tones and teams. So they were really like at the beginning, they were like, we're planning to make this like a little like sub thing in our Final Fantasy series.
Yeah, they really liked this particular world.
Yeah, they were like going for it, right? But another fun fact, so Final Fantasy 13-2 has a lot less FMVs, the pre-rendered cutscenes, the really nice looking ones that Square Enix does in their games, you know, where the hair moves nicely and stuff. And I happened upon this fact that they decided to put less in 13-2 so that they could put more in Versus 13. Incredibly funny.
Oh, well, it'll pay off in Kingdom Hearts 4, no doubt.
It's okay. They had like two like really long pre-rendered ones, the ending and the beginning scene, that were just like stunning in this game. So they made their pre-rendered cutscenes count. And but apparently they didn't decide to make another 13 until pretty far into development in 13-2, which makes me like,
yikes.
Were they just gonna end it on this like bummer? Were they gonna be that confident and they just added the to be continued at the end when they're like, oh yeah, we'll make Lightning Returns? Or were they not gonna, but did they add the cliffhanger ending at the end there? Either seems very possible.
They were influenced by Trine 3.
Okay, so, but last fun fact, 13 actually did sell pretty well. It was the fastest selling Final Fantasy in the franchise at the time that it came out. It sold 3 million copies in like its first week or whatever. It would be beaten by 15 at 5 million, where it has remained unchallenged since then so far. Fastest selling. 7 is still the most selling.
Right, of course.
So it did pretty well commercially, so I see why they made 2. But it did, you know, I think 13-2 sold like somewhere in like 1.5 million its first week, and Lightning Returns has sold 1.5 million total in its lifetime sales. Is the stat I saw. So it really just it was just a downhill, which is such a shame because I think 13-2 is just so much stronger than 13 on the whole. And I didn't even dislike 13. But I did play 13 with like the benefit of hindsight. Although if 16's releases taught me anything, it's that I think everybody hates Final Fantasies as soon as they come out, and then like it takes like a year or two before like critical consensus actually coalesces into something.
There's always someone loud who hates it, that's for sure.
Yeah. But like even looking back, like I was reading tweets of like the Gene Park was like my friend strangling me in Spanish class for saying Final Fantasy 7 wasn't a real Final Fantasy. But I think even like looking at like 10, which I think is like pretty universally beloved now. People didn't like 10 when it came out, and like, so we'll see how things shake out. I look forward to playing Lightning Returns probably next year.
One final question for you. How did Lightning end up with that name when everyone else has normal names?
Lightning is not actually her real name. It's her soldier name.
That clarifies. Thank you.
Anyway, they don't really have normal names. The first game, they're all like white themed as well.
Got it.
Snow, Fang, Vanille. Saz is like a foam, essentially. Hope, I guess, is white.
Yeah.
Colored.
Nice. Well, on that note, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
what have you been playing these past 6 weeks? Are you a Final Fantasy hater, or at least a hater at launch? Do you think that would you take Soulless Katamari if it meant you got a new one every year? That's the devil's bargain that I am offering. If you have thoughts on this or anything else in this episode, hit us up on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games in the hat, and read our blog, featuring long-running series Click My Boyfriend and Split Screen. But most importantly, if you like the show, you should subscribe. I'm going to have to learn a new one for this, because Stitcher is shutting down. So we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts online on the app, Overcast, Pocket Casts, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Talk This. For a while, I'm going to have to leave a blank space where Stitcher is until I, fix it in my head. Next week, we are talking about some games.
Yeah. We're talking about Klonoa and Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. And I was like, that's only on Xbox. It's all
Sure
coming
is.
back. So I'll just walk to the beat a little bit.
Sounds good.
Week. It'd be like I played Hi-Fi Rush. And then in 2 weeks, I guess it's my side quest again. Games for a transatlantic move.
Very good.
Games for when your city is smoggy. I could do a whole one about fog of war in games.
There you go.
Anyway, listeners, that's it for this week. Emma, do you have well wishes?
This week I hope that your timeline remains intact.